Now, I'm playing devil's advocate. You wrote this book 10 years ago, or before the rise of the buyer's agency that I see in my Facebook feed these days. Yeah. Being devil's advocate, it seems to me you can just do a 2-week online course and be really good at social media, having just bought 2 properties and become an expert buyer's agency. What, am I being too harsh on this industry?
No, not at all. I mean, we used to be a respected industry. Now we've become commoditized because somebody out there has created this online course, convinced people to part with $8,000, $10,000, lied by saying that anyone can be a buyer's agent. And that's the equivalent of saying anyone can be a real estate agent. But we all know that probably 30% of people who enter the industry will only stay and only succeed.
Yeah.
So they're all being told that anyone can be an advocate. And I'm the only person in the country to have franchised the buyer advocacy model.
Right.
I profile future or potential franchisees for the attributes that they need to be an advocate. And you have to have a broad number of attributes, and you have to be highly emotionally intelligent. So the problem is when you've got an engineer going, well, hey, I love property, I'm going to become a buyer's agent. Sure, they might be good on the analysis, but they've got no idea how to work with a client who's suffering anxiety and emotionally distressed and doesn't know how to work through an issue and move forward.
Is there a difference between an advocate and a buyer's agency, or is that just marketing?
Buyer's agent, buyer's advocate, they just call them different things in different states. But fundamentally, I see the role more as being a financial planner for property than being a real estate agent. And that's the other problem. You get excelling agents decide to be a buyer's agent. They're accustomed to turnover, being transactional. And that doesn't work with advocacy because you can't bully someone into buying a property if it's not right for them, which some of them actually are used to doing on the sales side of it. And while there are those who genuinely want to help buyers, if they haven't unlearned how to be a selling agent and then learn how to be an advocate, they're still operating out of unconscious patterns that don't do their clients any favours.
How can I do an online course for 2 weeks and then advise someone on $1 million purchase, as opposed to if I was selling a $1 share, I have to go through all the rigmaroles with ASIC, etc. How does buyer's agency escape this kind of loophole, if you ask me?
Well, number one, the property advice sector isn't governed by ASIC. There are no regulations around the qualifications that you need to have to give property advice. Unless you're a financial advisor giving advice on an REIT or a property-related product, that's a bit different. But if it's just residential property, you'd still have to be a licensed real estate agent. And now, fortunately, the loopholes have been shut down, and most people will need to work a minimum of a year with an agent's rep certificate, being mentored within an agency. And then after 1 or 2 years, depending on where they are, WA's 2 years, Victoria's 1 year, then they can apply for a license. So there is now, these people are now being forced to have to get the right qualifications, on the job, being mentored, make the commitment to learning the business and the job. It's definitely not a part-time gig. Anyone who does it part-time in addition to their full-time job, steer clear. And that's another topic. But so now the regulations are such that they have to have an agent's rep certificate working under a licensed buyer's agency firm, or they have to be fully licensed in their own right. But it doesn't negate the fact that they need industry experience, and I would suggest a minimum of 2 years working as a real estate agent, because these people who do this online course, and I think it's maybe 6 or 8 weeks, these people who are conned into being told that anyone can be a buyer's agent and you can earn ridiculous amounts of money, often they reach out to me and I say to them, do you want to be a selling agent? Do you want to be a real estate agent? They all go, no. I'm like, well, what do you think you are? Do you not actually understand that if you're a buyer's agent, you're a real estate agent? And do you not understand that the complexity of a buyer agent is far more significant than being a selling agent? And you're highly likely to get sued, because if you're advising someone on how to spend money and you give them the wrong advice, well, then you set yourself up to be sued and you set yourself up to ruin someone's life. That's a very different role to helping someone sell a property for price and terms that the vendor's agreeable to.
And I just worry that they don't have an all-round investment experience. Like I don't think the words a diversified portfolio has ever come out of a buyer's agent's mouth where he's saying you should get some shares as well as property. I know some buyer's agency, and they are literally waiting for that investment property to go up so they can access those funds and put them into another one so they can get another fee.
Well, I talk about diversification within a portfolio. I do, because of my financial planning background. If you read my whole book, you would see my approach throughout the book that talks about what people need to be aware of. So the puffery is basically from selling agents and property developers trying to flog whatever stock that they've got, whether it's right for you or not. Their agenda is to make money at your expense often, or whether it's off the plan or house or land package, whatever the case may be. So one of the riskiest things any buyer can do is buy anything that's off the plan or house or land, because you're buying the concept of something, not the tangible something. And there are many things that can happen between the time you sign the contract to when it's ready that can cause problems for people. And we've seen shocking building practices and lots of people in Sydney.
Mascot towers.
Buildings are collapsing and towers are collapsing because they bought it off the plan to start with, and then they finished with a problem that's just become about, well, who can we sue and who do we pass the buck to? And it's unbelievably sad and distressing seeing people go through that. So I think consumers need to understand that buying property is going to be the biggest investment you'll ever make. It'll be the riskiest process that you ever go through. And, if you're going to spend 5 hours or 2 hours analysing which telephone you want to buy, then absolutely you need to spend an enormous amount of time knowing and understanding the process of buying property, how to ascertain whether or not it's a good property, and then understanding negotiation. Because when people go, no, I'll do it myself, I can do what you do, it's like, well, no, I'm sorry, you can't. You can put your name to a contract and you can bid at an auction, but you absolutely not have my 30 years of practical hands-on experience, having worked with hundreds and hundreds of clients and thousands of selling agents, to know and understand the nuances of what to look for throughout that process, and more importantly, the questions to ask so that you don't show your hand or have it blow up in your face.
What are the questions I should ask a buyer's agency to choose a good one versus a bad one then?
Yeah, so if they're giving you investment advice, you want to know what their formal property investing qualifications are. So I'm an accredited property investment advisor. My colleague, Andre's got a Bachelor of Property. My other colleague, Michael, is a qualified mortgage broker, as well as having worked in the investment space, as well as having worked in the sales space. So long as someone within the organisation has got formal property investing qualifications and others are trained accordingly, that's who you want to work with. Everyone else who's like, we just use research and we'll use analytics and all the rest of it. Well, that's part of it, but it doesn't mean they're formally qualified to give advice on investment. So that's number one. If they're helping buy you a home, well, then they still have to have an understanding of investing, because your home is going to be your biggest asset. So the last thing you want to do when you buy your home is buy a lemon, because that has implications down the track for an upgrading point of view, from leveraging the equity to use investment and so forth. And more importantly, just because someone likes real estate and likes property doesn't mean they should be a buyer's agent. Just because you're a teacher 1 minute doesn't mean you're going to be a good buyer's agent the next, or an Uber driver or an engineer or whatever, because you might like certain elements of it and you might excel in one or two of those elements. But if you can't do the whole thing from beginning to end for a client, then that's a problem. And that's where you open yourself up for, legal action.
Good advice. Do you own an investment property? Wash & Brown has helped over 250,000 property investors pay less tax with a depreciation schedule. Visit washandbrown.com.au to pay less tax today.